This week, we explore the concept of silence and secrecy, as written about by Brother Carl Claudy, the popular author of the Old Tyler Talks. And then we'll get a rundown of the Midwest Conference on Masonic Education 2024. What happened? And what can we look forward to? What were the highlights? I've got them all for you. I just got back in town, and I think you'll enjoy. And you'll probably, I'm hoping, put it on your radar for 2025 when it comes to Indiana. All this and more. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. Here's your host, Brother Robert Johnson.
Welcome back to the show. This is episode number 635. First things first. We are so late putting out an episode. I have to apologize. We were dark one week, and the next week, things got way out of control. The Midwest Conference of Masonic Education needed someone to pinch hit for Right Worshipful Brother who couldn't make it. And so our thoughts go out to him as he had to deal with family emergencies as they happen. However, they called me and said, hey, can you pinch hit and do a little program for us? So I had to do that. And it took a little bit of getting things together and writing and doing some special things. And so I have to apologize, brothers, for my lack in posting an episode. So that's first and foremost. I want to thank our contributors, fellows, and producers, and of course, our legacy partner podcast supporters for all of their help in making this show possible since July of 2011. The Whence Came You podcast has been creating weekly Masonic education for anyone interested in Freemasonry, and of course, its kindred sciences. You all know it's no small endeavor requiring hours of work each week on top of what we all have. Work, kids, spouses, you name it. I want to thank you all for assisting us. And if you're out there and you're wondering how you can assist the WCY podcast, please head on over to the website, wcypodcast.com. Click on support the show and check out the various options. Now, for those of you who are producers or who have purchased a producer's pin or a legacy partner, we have our pins on order. We actually ran out of pins, and that never happens. So I want to thank everybody for your support, and those of you who have over the years purchased pins or been a part of producing the show. But we ran out, so it was time to revamp. This will be the 5th time we've had to order pins. The original history of the pin was really interesting. It began with Brother Brian Evichin, who wanted a way to give back to the show. And Brother Brian decided to work with Brother Axel Foley over in England, who created 25 pins, 25 money clips, and 25 pairs of cufflinks. And once those were gone, that was it. After that, we continued by making a few other runs of pins, about 100 at a time, of the pin. And then we changed the pin, and we went to a plain metallic WCY pin with our logo and a red border. That's really the 3rd generation of the pin. The first had a really awesome enamel pour, very premium product, and it was just amazing to be able to offer those. And the second time we went around, we also had a very quality pin, also enamel poured, but not over. It was like inlaid, very nice. And this third one we went very simple with. Now, for this latest iteration of the pin, we've done something very special, and we're very proud, and you will be the first to own it. Those of you who I owe pins to, believe me, I have you all on a list. I will get them to you as soon as possible. I appreciate your patience. But you'll be the first amongst anyone to have them in your hand, and we'll be sharing images just as soon as those come in. I could share some concept art, but I just don't think it does it justice. So we're going to hold off a little bit longer. In the news, well, June 4th, I'll be up at the Middleton Ionic 180 in Middleton, Wisconsin. This is a rescheduled event. There was a snowstorm the last time, and we were unable to meet, so we'll be doing that on June 4th. Esoterics 101. June 14th and 15th, I'll be up at Esotericon, very much just like the Midwest Conference. I'll be with Skull and Crown Ltd. I'll have a little table up there, and we're just hanging out. It's going to be an awesome time to catch all of the wonderful presenters. And then Camp Cornerstone, you guys. What is that? I'm super excited about this. It's an event that's sort of related to, styled after, I don't know how you describe it, but it's very much like Camp Masonry the way that used to be. Camp Cornerstone is being done at the Arizona Nordic Village in Flagstaff, Arizona. It's being put on by Flagstaff Lodge number 7, and it'll be August 9th through the 11th. So there'll be Friday, Saturday events, table lodge, Saturday, the camp activities, and just all kinds of amazing things. And you can check all of the details out if you head on over to flagstaff7.org. And there are links on our website. Under the schedule, you'll see the flyers for the program. You can click on those and they'll take you right to their website. Various activities that are happening at the Arizona Territorial Outdoor Third Degree. Again, the Table Lodge, where I'll be doing my talk. There is the Starry-Decked Camping. It says, join the brethren from all over for camping before and after the main events on Saturday. Campground opens Friday at 3 p.m. and closes on Sunday by 12. Bring your own provisions, including food and drink, and share in fellowship. The Quarry, a Masonic group, which is a support group that hosts meetings all over the state of Arizona. Well, that'll be hosted by Worshipful Brother David Sahadi on Friday evening. And then there's something called King Solomon's Saloon. Liar's Dice, 5-card draw, and cornhole during a cocktail hour preceding the Table Lodge. All proceeds are going to go to support Flagstaff number 7, Clothe a Child charity event. And you can send all your questions to campcornerstone2024@gmail.com. I'm very proud and excited to go to this and help out and raise some money for their charities, as well as share in great fellowship with these brothers. They've really put a lot into this. And if you've been waiting for something like Camp Masonry to come back, this is your shot. I look forward to seeing you there. The first piece I wanted to read for you this week is called Silence and Secrecy, and it's by Carl H. Claudy. It was recently grabbed and republished for the public to read on the universalfreemasonry.org website, and they put it out on April 3rd. And in just a short sentence, they say before the article begins, it says, in this article from the Old Tyler Talks series, Brother Claudy gives a beautiful exposition on the necessity of Masonic secrecy and the profound silence which surrounds our rituals. So, without further ado, Silence and Secrecy by Brother Carl H. Claudy. An old Greek philosopher, when asked what he regarded as the most valuable quality to win and the most difficult to keep, he replied, to be secret and silent. If secrecy was difficult in the olden times, it's doubly difficult today in the loud and noisy world in which we live, where privacy is almost unknown. Secrecy is indeed a priceless but rare virtue, so little effort is made to teach and practice it. The world of today is a whispering gallery where everything is heard, a hall of mirrors where nothing is hid. If the ancient worshipped a god of silence, we seem about to set up an altar to the god of gossip. Someone has said that if Masonry did no more than train its men to preserve sacredly the secrets of others confided to them as such, except where a higher duty demands disclosure, it would be doing a great work, and one which not only justifies its existence, but entitles it to the respect of mankind. Anyway, no Mason needs to be told the value of secrecy. Without it, Masonry would cease to exist, or else become something so different from what it is as to be unrecognizable. For that reason, if no other, the very first lesson taught a candidate and impressed upon him at every turn in unforgettable ways is the duty of secrecy. Yet, strictly speaking, Masonry is not a secret society, if by that we mean a society whose very existence is hidden. Everyone knows that the Masonic fraternity exists, and no effort is made to hide that fact. Its organization is known, its temples stand in our cities, its members are proud to be known as Masons. Anyone may obtain from the records of a Grand Lodge, if not from the printed reports of lodges, the names of the members of the craft. Nor can it be said that Masonry has any secret truth to teach unknown to the best wisdom of the race. Most of the talk about esoteric Masonry misses the mark. When the story is told, the only secret turns out to be some odd theory, some fanciful philosophy of no real importance. The wisdom of Masonry is hidden not because it is subtle, but because it is simple. Its secret is profound, not obscure. As in mathematics, there are primary figures, and in music, fundamental notes upon which everything rests. So Masonry is built upon the broad, deep, lofty truths upon which life itself stands. It lives, moves, and has its being in those truths. They are mysteries indeed, as life and duty and death are mysteries. To know them is to be truly wise, and to teach them in their full import is the ideal at which Masonry aims. Masonry, then, is not a secret society. It is a private order. In the quiet of the tiled lodge, shut away from the noise and clatter of the world in an air of reverence and friendship, it teaches us the truths that make us men, upon which faith and character must rest if they are to endure the wind and weather of life. So rare is its utter simplicity that to many it is as much a secret as though it were hid behind a sevenfold veil, or buried in the depths of the earth. What is the secret in Masonry? The method of its teaching, the atmosphere it creates, the spirit it breathes into our hearts, and the words and the tie it spins and weaves between men. In other words, the lodge, and its ceremonies and obligations, its signs, tokens, and words, its power to evoke what is most secret and hidden in the hearts of men. No one can explain how this is done. We only know that it is done, and guard as a priceless treasure the method by which it is wrought. It is the fashion of some to say that our ceremony signs and tokens are of little value, but it is not true. They are of profound importance, and we cannot be too careful in protecting them from profanation and abuse. The famous eulogy of the signs and tokens of Masonry by Benjamin Franklin was not idle eloquence. It is justified by the facts and ought to be known and remembered. Quote, "These signs and tokens are of no small value. They speak a universal language and act as a password to the attention and support of the initiated in all parts of the world. They cannot be lost so long as memory retains its power. Let the possessor of them be expatriated, shipwrecked, or imprisoned. Let him be stripped of everything he has in the world. Still these credentials remain and are available for use as circumstances require. The great effects by which they have produced are established by the most incontestable facts of history. They have stayed the uplifted hand of the destroyer, they have softened the aspirates of the tyrant, they have mitigated the horrors of captivity, they have subdued the rancor of malevolence, and broken down the barriers of political animosity and sectarian alienation. On the field of battle, in the solitude of the uncultivated forests, or in the busy haunts of the crowded city, they have made men of the most hostile feelings and most distant religions, and the most diversified conditions, rush to the aid of each other and feel a social joy and satisfaction that they have been able to afford relief to a brother Mason." End quote. What is equally true, and no less valuable, is that in the ordinary walks of everyday life they unite men and hold them together in a manner unique and holy. They open a door out of the loneliness in which every man lives. They form a tie uniting us to help one another and others in ways too many to name or count. They form a network of fellowship, friendship, and fraternity around the world. They add something lovely and fine to the life of each of us, without which we should be poorer indeed. Still, let us never forget that in this spirit that gives life, the letter alone is empty. An old home means 1,000 beautiful things to those who were brought up in it. Its very scenery and setting are sacred. The ground on which it stands is holy, but if a stranger buys it, these sacred things mean nothing to him. The spirit is gone, the glory has faded. Just so with the lodge. If it were opened to the curious gaze of the world, its beauty would be blighted, its power gone. The secret of Masonry is the secret of life, can be known only by those who seek it, serve it, and can live it. It cannot be uttered. It can only be felt and acted. It is, in fact, an open secret, and each man knows it according to his quest and capacity. Like all the things most worth knowing, no one can know it for another, and no one can know it alone. It is known only in fellowship, by the touch of life upon life, spirit upon spirit, knee to knee, breast to breast, hand to hand. For that reason, no one need be alarmed about any book written to expose Masonry. It is utterly harmless. The real secret of Masonry cannot be learned by prying eyes or curious inquiry. We do well to protect the privacy of the lodge, but the secret of Masonry can be known only by those who are ready and worthy to receive it. Only a pure heart and an honest mind can know it, though they be adepts in all signs and tokens of every rite of the craft. Indeed, so far from trying to hide its secret, Masonry is all the time trying to give it to the world, and the only way in which it can be given, through a certain quality of soul and character which it labors to create and build up. To the making of men, helping, self-discovery, and self-development, all the offices of Masonry are dedicated. It is a quarry in which the rough stones of manhood are polished for use and beauty. If Masonry uses the illusion of secrecy, it is because it knows that it is the nature of man to seek what is hidden and to desire what is forbidden. Even God hides from us, that in seeking Him, amid the shadow of life, we may find both Him and ourselves. The man who does not care enough for God to seek Him will never find Him, though He is not far away from any one of us. One who looks at Masonry in this way will find that his Masonic life is a great adventure. It is a perpetual discovery. There is something new at every turn, something new in himself as life deepens with the years, something new in Masonry as its meaning unfolds. The man who finds its degrees tedious and its ritual a rigmarole only betrays the measure of his own mind. If a man knows God, and man to the utmost, even Masonry has nothing to teach him. As a fact, the wisest man knows very little. The way is dim and no one can see very far. We are seekers after truth, and God has so made us that we cannot find the truths alone, but only in the love and service of our fellow men. Here is the real secret, and to learn it is to have the key to the meaning and joy of life. Truth is not a gift, it is a trophy. To know it, we must be true. To find it, we must seek. To learn it, we must be humble. And to keep it, we must have a clear mind, a courageous heart, and the brotherly love to use it in the service of man. There you have this wonderful, poetic, and yet very succinct, very clear definition of silence and secrecy, but this is only the outside of the onion of this particular piece. I mean, really, this is about what is secret and why it is secret, but really why it's not secret. It's just something that is ineffable, unable to be communicated. The secret of Masonry, the secret of life, he says, can only be known by those who seek it, serve it, and live it. He has a way of words, Claudy does, in that I think one of the most telling secrets here is in the second to last paragraph. And it's when he says, if Masonry uses the illusion of secrecy, it's because it knows that it is the nature of man to seek what is hidden and to desire what is forbidden. He goes on to say, even God hides from us, that in seeking Him amidst the shadows of life we may find both Him and ourselves. This is a profound thought. This idea that God knows we should seek Him, but how can we seek Him, it, her, whatever, without some sort of psychological push? A very interesting thought experiment. At the top of the episode, you heard me talk about the Midwest Conference of Masonic Education. Well, I wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of just what happened at the conference. Number one, it was fantastic. Friday night, we gathered and had a wonderful time gathering at the Marriott in Southwest Minnetonka, Minnesota, which was a pretty amazing, pretty grand Marriott hotel. We got to hang out and enjoy fellowship in the lobby, which was very large, it has a bar and all of that good stuff. So gentlemen were able to relax and talk. And the first thing that happened that day, which I wasn't able to attend, was a program by Brother Eric Erforth about Worshipful Brother Ben Franklin that happened approximately 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Now, I went down with the first vice president, now president, James Buckhorn, and he and I got stuck on the bridge going from Wisconsin into Minnesota for about 2 hours. It was a little bit mind-bending, if you will. I subjected James to questionable choices of music, I believe. Now, later that evening, we were able to make it over to the Shrine Center in Minnetonka to witness probably the last 2/3 of a presentation by Brother Scott Wolter, who did a presentation on Templars, Masons, and North America. And then we all retired back to the hotel. A little bit of hospitality room and some fellowship. And then we started the next day bright and early, 8 o'clock. We got over to the Masonic Heritage Center in Minnesota, in Minnetonka there, which literally is a 11-minute walk, 2-minute drive from the hotel. But it was raining, so we did drive. And it was wonderful. We had a Grand Master's welcome and remarks for the Midwest Conference, which were done by, of course, the most worshipful Grand Master of Masons in Minnesota. And after that, we got this awesome presentation about how Top Gun trains its educators by Dave Baranek. I believe I said his last name correctly. And he did a fantastic job talking about just how the outside organization like Top Gun trains people to do very serious work. And he's not a brother, but so it was up to us to kind of figure out how these very interesting things that he was talking about fit into the Masonic fraternity. And believe me, there was a lot of great stuff. Right after that, I got to get up and do a talk that I gave called What is Masonic Education? It was met with a lot of laughs and also some really great commentary afterward. The laughs came in because I didn't have any slides for this particular presentation. And because of that, I allowed Right Worshipful Brother Chad Kopensky, Darren Laners, and James Buckhorn to create a slide deck of images that I had never seen before. So as they were going through, just on a timed basis, these images were popping up as I was giving quite serious of a talk. But perhaps the juxtapose of strange images that might have been kind of jarring during the presentation helped people remember. We had our first breakout session at 11, 7 Habits of Effective Masonic Educators by Brother Brad Phelps, who did a phenomenal job. He was also bouncing around and had to do different interim talking to the sessions as well, and he did absolutely wonderful. At around 1 o'clock, we had Mark Anderson with the Masonic Heritage Preservation and Dealing with Stuff was the title of his presentation. And it was really cool. He actually runs the Masonic Heritage Museum, I believe, and invited us over just down the hall afterwards to check out this awesome museum, which if you guys are up in Minnesota, you have to check it out. It is phenomenal. And then later on at 2 o'clock, we had our choice of a breakout session, whether we were going to go to one that was about ritual memorization or one that was about membership fulfillment. So I myself went to the presentation about memorization, which was wonderful. It was done by Brother Marcus Muller. And the other session I heard awesome things about as well, and that was by Brother Reed Endersby. And then we had the election of officers and the usual state of Masonic affairs and a Masonic education that was done at around 3 o'clock that day, which was wonderful. Brother Chad Lasik, who had been the 4th vice president, normally would have moved up to the 3rd vice president spot. However, he decided that he and our newly appointed chairman of Masonic Education for Illinois, Brother Bernard Davis Jr., was going to take Chad's place as the 4th vice president. So at the end of the day, we have to thank Brother Chad Lasik for his wonderful work. I should say illustrious Brother Chad Lasik for his work in continuing our engagement in terms of Illinois, coming to these conferences and making it all work. And then, of course, Brother Bernard Davis Jr., who stepped into this chairman role with gusto and with vision and is very excited at making some huge leaps forward for Masonic education in Illinois. So all that to say, we now have Brother James Buckhorn of Indiana as the president of the Midwest Conference of Masonic Education, which means next year's conference will be in Indiana. And the Grand Lodge is backing it, and they're there to see it through. And it sounds like some initial planning has already begun. So Indiana. The year after that, I do believe it will be Nebraska, because I think the first vice president is now Brother Matt Parker of Nebraska, and the line will continue. And in fact, eventually in 2028, Illinois will be hosting, and that will be very special indeed. In particular, for me, it's very special. I've not been to the Midwest Conference when Illinois has hosted. The last time Illinois hosted, we were in the midst of a pandemic. So we had to do it online. So it was very interesting. And we did the best we could. There was a lot of great stuff that we could do and a good time. But an in-person event I've not been to for Illinois. So I've been to Iowa, was the first time I went. Then we were in Kansas City, Missouri. And then we were in Ohio. And this year was Minnesota. The next year is going to be in Indiana. The year after that, Nebraska. It's really traveling all around, and it's very exciting. So anyway, what happened after that? Well, then we did our second annual. We started a tradition of milk and cookies. We had a wonderful time, and literally ice cold milk, chocolate chip cookies. We sit around kind of like, a day of after school. You get home from school and you have milk and cookies. That's how Chad Kopinski described it. And I know he gives a lot of credit to his other Chad Simpson, who passed away not too long back. And that rocked the Masonic world, I'll tell you that. But as this sort of tradition that was born with the Chads, he brought it to Ohio last year, and we continued it this year. Another hit, a lot of fun, and a much-needed sugar high in the middle of the day. We concluded the conference with our festive board, which had a few toasts, just 4, and we had a speaker that is no stranger to public speaking at all, or Masonic speaking for that matter, which was Most Worshipful Brother Terry Tilton of Minnesota, who is a past Grand Master. He's also a pastor, so that's awesome. And he got up and talked about Masonic education and its importance and some really difficult realities that we have to deal with as Masonic educators. And that is that we are the minority, generally speaking. Most Masons do not like reading. Most Masons do not engage in Masonic education. And that's just the fact. I think we broke it out something like just 1%, 1 out of 100 Masons seems to be interested in the educational pursuits of Masonry, which we all agreed were the foundation of the fraternity. So this was a wonderful talk that he did, and I think he probably almost brought some guys to tears. But he was an amazing speaker, and I do believe they filmed it. And if they did, anybody who ever catches that is going to just love it. It was outstanding. Well, with all that, I know it was a shorter episode, but I want to say that we needed to get something out, and I wanted to be able to give you some content. So, in closing, I would say, number 1, mark your calendars when you can, or at least get it on your radar, that the Midwest Conference on Masonic Education will be happening next year in Indiana. I also want you to remember a couple things that are coming up. Esotericon is coming in June 14th and 15th. Secondly, if you're going to be in the area sometime on May 7th, I'll be at Euclid Lodge 65 in Naperville, Illinois. I'm just going for a fraternal visit, but they've also asked me to do a 10 to 15 minute short educational piece for the meeting, which I will be doing for them. And of course, Camp Cornerstone in July. Those are going to be some huge, awesome events. Now, nobody needs to go to all of them, but if you do, cool. I just know that they're going to be epic events. Masonicon Kansas is right around the corner too. So thank you to our supporters of the show, our Contributors, fellows, producers, and legacy partners, one more time, if you're curious on how to support the show, head on over to wcypodcast.com, click on support the show, check out your options. I do appreciate it. It all comes back down to listener-supported Masonic education. And with that, we'll talk to you all next week. Until then, stay on the level. For Whence Came You, I'm Robert Johnson. Take care.
WCY Media.
You've been listening to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry with your host, Brother Robert Johnson. Be sure to join us for our next edition.